Professor Vex 9 clicked his four mandibles together nervously as he adjusted the containment field controls. The lecture hall buzzed with excited chatter from his xenobiology students, their various alien forms creating a symphony of whispers, clicks, and harmonic vibrations. Today was the day he would finally demonstrate why humans were classified as Class 7 apex predators by the Galactic Council. "Settle down," Vex 9 called out, his translator doing its best to convert his native Thrakari throat singing into something resembling standard galactic. "Today we witness something extraordinary, something that will forever change how you view the most dangerous species in known space." A Galaxian student in the third row, Quilp Beta, raised one of her 7 tentacles. "Professor, are you absolutely certain this is safe? My clutch mother specifically warned me about taking courses involving those creatures." Vex 9's compound eyes glittered with what could generously be called confidence, but might more accurately be described as barely contained panic. "Perfectly safe, my dear Quilp Beta. The human specimen has been thoroughly sedated and restrained. The predator cubs are contained within military-grade force fields. What could possibly go wrong?" Famous last words, really. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The lecture hall itself was a marvel of modern education technology. Tiered seating accommodated species ranging from gas-based Nemarians floating in their environmental suits to the massive, rock-like Terrans who required reinforced flooring. At the center sat a transparent containment cube, roughly 3 meters on each side, equipped with enough safety protocols to contain a small singularity. "Now then," Vex 9 continued, pulling up a holographic display, "humans represent the most successful predator species we've encountered. They conquered their homeworld through sheer brutality, consuming everything in their path. They wage war for sport, keep other predators as pets, and their very presence causes lesser species to flee in terror." Mira 7, a Kristen student whose translucent body shimmered with skepticism, chimed in with her melodic voice. "Professor, if they're so dangerous, why do the humans in the cafeteria always help me reach the high shelves? And why did that human janitor, Marcus, give me extra blankets when I mentioned being cold?" Vex 9 waved a dismissive appendage. "Clearly an elaborate deception, Mira 7. Predators are cunning. They lull you into a false sense of security before striking, which brings us to today's demonstration." He gestured dramatically toward a smaller containment unit wheeled in by his teaching assistant. Zlorp. Inside, 3 small furry creatures tumbled about playfully, occasionally making the most adorable mewling sounds. Behold, Raxan saber cubs from the death world of Mortis Prime. These creatures are born killers, engineered by evolution to be the perfect predators. Sharp claws, enhanced reflexes, and an insatiable hunger for violence. Even as cubs, they are capable of taking down prey twice their size. The assembled students leaned forward with morbid fascination. The cubs did look rather fierce, with their tiny fangs and what appeared to be natural armor plating along their spines. "For our demonstration," Vex 9 announced, "we've procured a human specimen. Now watch as these apex predators recognize each other and engage in the deadly dance of natural selection." A door slid open at the far end of the hall, and in walked what had to be the least intimidating apex predator in galactic history. Luna Park stood barely 1.6 meters tall, with short auburn hair and the kind of face that made small animals want to be her friend. She wore a simple blue jumpsuit and carried what appeared to be a satchel of snacks. "Oh, wow," Luna said, her voice carrying easily across the lecture hall. "Are those the baby Raxans Professor Vex 9 mentioned? They're absolutely precious." Several students instinctively moved back in their seats. Here was a Class 7 predator, and she was showing no fear whatsoever. Clearly, this was the confidence of an apex killer surveying her territory. "Observe," Vex 9 whispered into his microphone, "how the human immediately assesses the threat level and shows no fear. This is predatory behavior at its finest." Luna approached the containment cube with what Vex 9 interpreted as predatory focus, but which was actually the kind of delighted anticipation normally reserved for puppy videos. As she knelt beside the cube, the 3 Raksan cubs stopped their tumbling and stared at her with wide, curious eyes. "Hello there, little ones," Luna cooed softly. "Aren't you just the cutest death machines in the galaxy?" Zib 12, a molluscoid student with excellent hearing, translated for his section. "She's speaking to them in what our databases classify as baby talk. This must be some sort of psychological warfare technique." The cubs pressed against the transparent wall of their container, making soft trilling sounds that their species probably intended as intimidating war cries, but which sounded remarkably like purring. "Professor," Luna called out, "is it safe to interact with them directly? They seem so friendly." Vex 9's mandibles clicked rapidly with excitement. "Ah, yes. Notice how the predator seeks to establish dominance through direct contact. Very well, Luna Park. The safety protocols will protect you should things go wrong." With a few adjustments to his control panel, Vex 9 disabled the containment field. The 3 Raksan cubs tumbled out onto the floor of the larger cube, shook themselves, and immediately began what could only be described as the most fearsome display of adorableness in recorded history. The largest cub, sporting distinctive silver stripes, approached Luna with what Vex 9 was certain was predatory stalking behavior. Its siblings flanked it on either side in a clear pack hunting formation. The lecture hall held its collective breath. "Look at that coordination," Vex 9 narrated breathlessly. "Observe the tactical positioning, the way they move as a unit. This is apex predation at its—" The silver-striped cub reached Luna and immediately flopped over onto its back, exposing its fluffy belly and making happy, churring sounds. The lecture hall erupted in confused chatter. This was not what the textbooks had prepared them for. Said Quilp Beta, her voice uncertain. "Professor, is that normal predator behavior?" Luna's face lit up with pure joy. "Oh my goodness, you want belly rubs, don't you? Who's a good little apex predator? Who's a good little death machine?" She began gently scratching the cub's belly, and the sound it made in response could only be described as the most content purr in the galaxy. Its 2 siblings, not to be outdone, immediately competed for Luna's attention by climbing onto her lap and nuzzling against her arms. "This," Vex 9 stammered, "this is highly irregular. The cubs should be attacking by now. Perhaps they're confused by her scent." Luna looked up at the professor with genuine concern. "Oh, I hope I'm not interfering with your lesson. It's just that they're so sweet, and they seem to really want attention. Look at this little one." She pointed to the smallest cub, which had managed to climb up her arm and was now perched on her shoulder, nuzzling her ear with tiny, rumbling purrs. Mira 7's crystalline form shimmered with what her species displayed as amusement. "Professor, I think your apex predators have been domesticated by the other apex predator." "Impossible," Vex 9 insisted, though his confidence was clearly shaken. "Raksan saber cubs are incapable of domestication. They're wild creatures born to hunt and kill." As if to prove him wrong, the silver-striped cub had somehow maneuvered itself into Luna's lap and was now fast asleep, occasionally making tiny, content snoring sounds. Its siblings were not far behind, creating what appeared to be the galaxy's most dangerous cuddle pile. "Professor," called out Yex Prime, a hegemony student known for his analytical mind, "according to my observations, the human appears to be engaging in nurturing behavior typically associated with caretaking species, not predators." "Nonsense!" Vex 9 clicked his mandibles with increasing agitation. "This must be some sort of elaborate hunting strategy. Perhaps she's planning to lower their guard before striking." Luna overheard this and looked genuinely puzzled. "Strike? Why would I want to hurt them? They're babies. Look, this one's making little dream squeaks. I think it's dreaming about something happy." She gently stroked the sleeping cub's head, and it unconsciously leaned into her touch. The other cubs, seeing their sibling getting attention, immediately began a competition to see who could snuggle closest to Luna. "This is unprecedented," muttered Jex Omega, a researcher from the collective. "Our entire understanding of human behavioral patterns may be fundamentally flawed." Vex 9, now thoroughly flustered, decided to escalate the situation. "Very well. Perhaps the cubs are too young to recognize the threat. Let's introduce a more mature specimen." He activated another containment unit and outstepped what was clearly an adult Raksan saber cat. This creature was the size of a small hover car, with blade-like claws and fangs that could probably cut through starship hull plating. Its eyes glowed with predatory intelligence as it surveyed the scene. The lecture hall fell dead silent. The adult Raksan took in the situation, 3 of its offspring apparently captured by a strange, bipedal creature. Its lips pulled back in what was unmistakably a snarl, revealing teeth that belonged in a museum of geological weaponry. "Now we'll see true predator behavior," Vex 9 announced, though his voice carried a slight tremor. "Observe as the adult recognizes the threat to its young and responds accordingly." Luna looked up at the approaching saber cat with interest rather than fear. "Oh, hello there, Mama. Or are you Papa? Either way, you're absolutely magnificent. Don't worry about your babies. They're perfectly safe with me." The adult Raksan paused mid-stalk, its head tilting slightly as if processing this unexpected response. Here was a creature that should have been running in terror, cowering in submission, or at least showing some basic survival instincts. Instead, it was speaking in soft, soothing tones. "Look," Luna continued, gently lifting one of the sleeping cubs. "They're having such a good time. This little one fell asleep right in my lap. I think they like me." The adult Raksan approached cautiously, its massive head lowering to sniff at its offspring. The cub stirred, opened sleepy eyes, and made a happy chirping sound upon seeing its parent. Then it immediately nuzzled back into Luna's arms. What happened next would be talked about in xenobiology circles for decades to come. The adult Raksan, this apex predator from a death world, this creature designed by evolution to be a perfect killing machine, sat down next to Luna and began to purr, a sound like a well-tuned starship engine rumbling contentedly. "Oh my," Luna said with delight. "I think you want some attention too, don't you? Who's a good big cat? Who's a magnificent apex predator?" She reached out slowly, giving the adult every chance to back away, and gently scratched behind one of its ears. The purring doubled in volume. The lecture hall was in complete chaos now. Students were chattering in dozens of languages, several were taking frantic notes, and at least 3 were questioning everything they thought they knew about predator-prey relationships. "This is impossible," Vex 9 practically shouted. "These are killers. Monsters. They should be attacking." "Professor," Mira 7 called out, her voice carrying clearly over the din. "Perhaps our classification system needs some revision. The human doesn't appear to be behaving like a predator at all." Luna looked around the lecture hall with sudden understanding. "Oh, is this about that silly Class 7 designation? You know, that's really more of a technical classification based on our theoretical capability, not our actual behavior." She gestured to the scene around her. 3 cubs now competing for the best snuggling spots, and an adult saber cat that had somehow maneuvered its massive head into her lap for more ear scratches. Most humans would never hurt something this adorable. We're actually pretty fond of taking care of small, cute things. It's kind of our thing. Quilp Beta tentatively raised a tentacle. But what about all the stories? The wars, the conquered planets, the reputation for violence? Luna's expression grew more serious, though she continued gently petting the purring mountain of fur in her lap. "Well, sure, humans can be dangerous when we need to be. If something threatens our families, our friends, or innocent creatures that can't protect themselves, yes, we can be absolutely terrifying." She paused, looking down at the sleeping cubs. "But that's exactly why we take care of things like this. These babies aren't threats. They're just little creatures that need love and protection. Any human worth their salt would do the same thing. The adult saber cat, as if understanding the conversation, opened one massive eye and regarded the assembled students. Its gaze was calm, content, and completely lacking in the murderous intent they'd expected. "So let me get this straight," called out Yex Prime. "Humans are dangerous because they protect things?" "Among other reasons," Luna nodded. "We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because sometimes it's necessary. But when it's not necessary..." She gestured to her current situation, covered in purring predator cats. "Well, why would we choose violence when we could choose this instead?" Vex 9 was beginning to realize that his carefully planned demonstration had gone spectacularly off-script. His neat categories of predator and prey, hunter and hunted, were crumbling around him like a house of cards in a gravitational anomaly. But the containment protocols, he started weakly. "Oh, those are probably still a good idea," Luna agreed cheerfully. "Not because these sweethearts are dangerous, but because university insurance policies can be really strict about wild animals in classrooms. Plus, I'm sure there are regulations about proper creature care and all that." One of the cubs had managed to climb up onto her shoulder again and was now grooming her hair with its tiny tongue, apparently having decided that she needed proper maintenance. "The really funny thing," Luna continued, carefully adjusting her position so the adult cat could get more comfortable, "is that most humans would react exactly the same way I am right now. We see something small and furry that needs help, and our brains just go, 'must protect,' before we even think about whether it might be dangerous." "Even if it could kill you?" asked Zlorp, speaking up for the first time. Luna considered this seriously. "Honestly? Especially then. There's something about a creature that's powerful enough to be dangerous but chooses to be gentle instead. That just makes us want to take care of it even more." The adult saber cat rumbled approvingly, as if it understood and appreciated this sentiment. "Professor Vex 9, Mira 7 called out, I think this demonstration has been more educational than you planned, just not in the way you expected." Vex 9 looked around his lecture hall, taking in the sight of his students hanging on every word, watching a human casually cuddling with creatures that should have been trying to eat her. His carefully prepared notes seemed suddenly irrelevant. "Class," he said finally, "I believe we're going to need to significantly revise our understanding of human behavior. Luna Park, would you be willing to come back next week to discuss this further?" Luna looked up from where she was now surrounded by a complete family of saber cats, all of whom seemed to have decided she was the best thing that had ever happened to them. "I'd love to," she said, "but I think we might need a bigger containment cube." 1 week later, the lecture hall was packed beyond capacity. Word had spread throughout the university about the human incident, and students from every department had squeezed in to witness the follow-up session. Even Dean Corax Prime had arrived, his massive crystalline form taking up an entire section of reinforced seating. Professor Vex 9 stood before his audience, noticeably more humble than the previous week. His mandibles clicked nervously as he adjusted his notes for the 100th time. "Before we begin today's session," he announced, "I feel it necessary to issue a formal apology to the Xenobiology Department, the Ethics Committee, and particularly to Luna Park for my somewhat misguided assumptions about human behavior." A ripple of amused chatter swept through the crowd. Luna, seated in the front row with what appeared to be a picnic basket, waved cheerfully. "No worries, Professor. It was actually pretty fun, though I did bring some proper supplies this time." She opened her basket to reveal an assortment of items that made absolutely no sense to the alien observers. Soft blankets, various toys that squeaked when pressed, and what appeared to be several containers of food. "Supplies?" Quilp Beta asked, her tentacles curling with curiosity. "Well, yes," Luna explained matter-of-factly. "If we're going to have the saber cats here for educational purposes, we should make sure they're comfortable and entertained. I brought some snacks, toys, and blankets for nap time." Dean Corax Prime's voice resonated with confusion. "Nap time? These are apex predators from a death world. Exactly, Luna beamed, which means they probably have very high energy when they're awake, so they need plenty of rest. Plus, growing cubs need lots of sleep for proper development. Vex 9 activated the containment cube, and the saber cat family was transported in. The moment the adults spotted Luna, it began purring so loudly that the lecture hall's acoustic dampeners kicked in automatically. "Oh, hello, beautiful," Luna cooed, and the massive predator immediately flopped over like an oversized house cat, exposing its belly for rubs. The 3 cubs tumbled out of their transport container and made a beeline for Luna, climbing over each other in their eagerness to reach her. Within moments, she was once again buried under a pile of purring death machines. "Right," Vex 9 said weakly. So, as we can see, the human continues to display this unusual bonding behavior with the predators. "It's not unusual at all," Luna protested gently while distributing toys to the cubs. "This is completely normal human behavior. Watch this." She pulled out her personal communicator and activated its holographic display. "These are pictures from my home." The display showed images of Luna surrounded by various earth animals, dogs, cats, birds, and even what appeared to be a large reptile of some kind. "These are all predators from my home world," Luna explained. "This is Buster. He's a German shepherd. Definitely capable of being dangerous, but he's actually a big softy who's afraid of vacuum cleaners. And this is Princess Whiskers. She's a cat. Technically a perfect killing machine, but mostly she just sleeps 18 hours a day and judges everyone." Mira 7's form shimmered with fascination. "You live with predators voluntarily?" "Of course. Most humans do. We call them pets, companions, family members. The idea of living without animals around seems really lonely to most of us." She scratched behind the adult saber cat's ear, causing it to purr even louder. "The thing is, we don't see these guys as dangerous monsters. We see them as individuals with personalities, needs, and feelings." Yex Prime raised a manipulator appendage. "But what about the classification system? Humans are listed as Class 7 apex predators because of your warfare capabilities, territorial expansion, and successful conquest of your homeworld." Luna's expression grew more serious, though she continued petting the contented saber cat. "Okay, that's actually a really good point, and I think this is where the misunderstanding comes from." She stood up carefully, somehow managing not to disturb the family of predators who had arranged themselves around her like living furniture. "Yes, humans can be incredibly dangerous when we choose to be. We've fought wars, we've conquered territories, and we've definitely earned our reputation as effective predators. But here's the thing nobody seems to understand about us." She paused, looking around the packed lecture hall. "We didn't conquer our world because we're naturally violent. We conquered it because we wanted to protect the things we care about." The hall fell silent except for the rumbling purrs of the saber cats. "Every war we've ever fought, every territory we've claimed, every time we've shown that apex predator behavior, it's been to create safe spaces for our families, our communities, and yes, our animal companions." She gestured to the saber cats. "When I look at these beautiful creatures, I don't see competitors or threats. I see individuals who deserve protection and care, and if something were to threaten them..." Her voice carried a subtle steel that made several students shift uncomfortably. "Well, that's when you'd see the predator side of humanity." Dean Corax Prime rumbled thoughtfully. "So human aggression is defensive in nature?" "Mostly, yes. We're what you might call protective predators. We don't hunt for sport or kill for pleasure. We fight to defend what we love." One of the cubs had managed to fall asleep across Luna's feet, and she carefully adjusted her stance to avoid disturbing it. "The really funny thing is, the more dangerous something is, the more we want to take care of it. We have a saying on Earth. The bigger they are, the bigger softies they become with the right care." "But that makes no logical sense," protested Zlorp. "Dangerous creatures should be avoided, not nurtured." Luna grinned. "Logic has nothing to do with it. It's about empathy, connection, and recognizing that just because something can be dangerous doesn't mean it wants to be. She knelt down and gently woke the sleeping cub, then pulled out one of the squeaky toys from her basket. The cub's eyes went wide with delight, and it immediately pounced on the toy, causing it to emit a series of cheerful squeaks. Within seconds, all three cubs were engaged in an epic battle over the squeaky toy, tumbling around in a display that was equal parts fearsome predator training and adorable play behavior. "You see?" Luna laughed. "They're not monsters. They're just big cats who want to play, eat, sleep, and be loved, just like cats everywhere." The adult saber cat watched its offspring play for a moment, then looked up at Luna with what could only be described as gratitude in its intelligent eyes. "Professor Vex 9, called out Jex Omega, I believe we need to completely revise our threat assessment protocols. If this is typical human behavior, then our defensive strategies are entirely inappropriate." "How so?" Vex 9 asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "Well," Jex Omega continued, "our current protocols assume that humans are aggressive, expansion-focused predators who respond to strength and territorial displays. But if they're actually protective nurturers who respond to care and empathy, then treating them as threats makes us the aggressors." Dean Corax Prime finished grimly, "which would trigger exactly the defensive response we're trying to avoid." Luna nodded approvingly. "Exactly. Humans are actually pretty easy to get along with. Treat us with respect, don't threaten the things we care about, and we'll bend over backwards to help you. But threaten our families, our friends, or innocent creatures who can't protect themselves." She didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung in the air like a gravitational field. "So the key to human diplomacy," Mira 7 said slowly, "is not to show strength, but to show that you care about the same things they do?" "Pretty much, though we also appreciate honesty, humor, and good food. Oh, and if you really want to make friends with a human, ask us about our pets. We can talk for hours about our animal companions." As if summoned by her words, one of the cubs abandoned the squeaky toy and climbed into Luna's lap, settling down for what appeared to be a serious napping session. "The other thing you should understand," Luna continued, absently stroking the cub's fur, "is that humans are pack animals. We form strong social bonds, not just with our own species, but with anyone or anything we consider part of our group." She looked around the lecture hall. "Every single one of you could become part of a human's pack if you wanted to. We're actually pretty inclusive that way." "But what about the stories?" Quilt Beta asked. "The tales of human mercenaries, soldiers, hunters." "Oh, those are all true," Luna said cheerfully. "But you're missing the context. Human mercenaries usually fight to protect their comrades or to earn money for their families. Human soldiers fight to defend their homes and loved ones. Human hunters, well, okay, some of them just like the challenge, but most hunt for food or to protect livestock from actual threats." She paused thoughtfully. "The thing is, we don't separate our protective instincts from our caring instincts. They're the same thing. We take care of what we love, and we fight to protect what we take care of." The adult saber cat had apparently decided that Luna's free hand needed more attention, and was gently head-butting it until she resumed her ear scratches. "Professor," called out Yex Prime, "what are the implications of this for galactic policy?" Vex 9 looked around his transformed lecture hall. Students from dozens of species all focused on a human casually managing a family of apex predators through nothing more than kindness and understanding. "I think," he said slowly, "that we need to completely reassess our approach to human contact. Instead of defensive posturing and threat displays, we should be focusing on, what did you call it, Luna? Empathy and connection." "That would be a good start," Luna agreed. "Though you might also want to update your classification system. Apex predator is technically accurate, but it's misleading. Maybe something like protective pack species would be more helpful." "What about dangerous when provoked but otherwise remarkably friendly?" suggested Mira 7. Luna burst out laughing, causing the cub in her lap to stir and make sleepy protest sounds. I love that, though it might be a bit long for official documentation. Dean Corax Prime's crystalline form resonated with what his species expressed as deep contemplation. Luna Park, would you be willing to address the Galactic Council about this? Your insights could prevent significant diplomatic incidents. Sure, but I'd want to bring some friends, Luna said, indicating the saber cat family. I think they're excellent ambassadors for the "not all predators are mindless killing machines" message. The adult saber cat rumbled approvingly, as if it understood and approved of its new diplomatic role. There's one more thing you should understand about humans, Luna added, carefully shifting the drowsy cub to a more comfortable position. We judge others by their actions, not their classifications. A creature listed as an apex predator who chooses to be gentle gets more respect from us than a classified harmless species that chooses to be cruel. She looked directly at Professor Vex 9. You tried to use these beautiful creatures as weapons in your demonstration. That was cruel and unnecessary. But then you admitted your mistake, apologized, and worked to understand better. That's the kind of behavior that earns human respect. Vex 9's mandibles clicked with what his species expressed as gratitude and slight embarrassment. Thank you, Luna. I believe this has been the most educational experience of my career. As if sensing the conversation was winding down, the three cubs began showing signs of serious sleepiness. Luna pulled the soft blankets from her basket and began arranging them into a comfortable nest. Nap time, little ones, she murmured softly, and the cubs immediately snuggled into the blankets with contented purrs. The adult saber cat watched this process approvingly, then carefully positioned itself to serve as a protective barrier around its offspring. And that, Luna said quietly, is what human strength really looks like. Not the ability to destroy, but the willingness to protect. Not the power to dominate, but the choice to nurture. She looked around the silent lecture hall one final time. We're not the monsters you thought we were. We're just a species that happens to be very, very good at taking care of the things we love. The lecture hall remained quiet for a long moment, filled only with the gentle sounds of purring predators and the soft breathing of sleeping cubs. Finally, Dean Corax Prime spoke. Class dismissed. And, Professor Vex 9, I believe we need to have a serious discussion about revising the entire xenobiology curriculum. As students began filing out, many stopped to get a closer look at the peaceful scene in the containment cube. A human surrounded by sleeping predators, all of them safe, content, and cared for. It was, several students would later write in their reports, the most terrifying and beautiful thing they had ever seen. The true power of an apex predator, choosing protection over domination, love over fear. And in the quiet of the nearly empty lecture hall, Luna Park continued to keep watch over her new friends, proving once and for all that the most dangerous humans were not the ones who chose to fight, but the ones who chose to care.